If you think the only places worth living in Britain are either bankrupting London boroughs or sleepy villages, what if I told you there's a sweet spot? I'm talking about 25 best towns to live in Britain that actually make sense, where the maths actually adds up right now.
I've spent months digging through, talking to locals, and analyzing the vibe shifts. I'm going to give you the honest truth about the rental markets, the house prices that might shock you, and stick with me because the town taking the #1 spot is practically a fairy tale that you can actually afford to live in. I'm skipping the big cities. Manchester, Birmingham, Glasgow, they've had their time in the sun. This is about the unsung heroes, the towns that are quietly booming while everyone else is distracted. So, get comfortable and let's find your new home. We're kicking this massive countdown off with a place that consistently tops the charts for quality of life. Perched right on the edge of the Firth of Forth, North Berwick. It's the kind of seaside town that feels like it's been curated by a very wealthy, very tasteful set designer who specializes in perfect British summers. It's effectively become the gold standard for affluent living in Scotland. This is the absolute pinnacle for commuters who want to escape Edinburgh's city noise without losing convenience. Life here feels like a permanent holiday, just with better Wi-Fi. You've got 2 stunning sandy bays that bookend the town, giving you a choice of beaches depending on the wind direction, and a direct train link that whisks you straight into Edinburgh Waverley in around 30 minutes. The vibe here? Well-heeled outdoorsy. It's energetic, but in a wholesome, fresh air kind of way. The biggest stress of the day is whether the tide is out far enough for a long coastal walk, or if the deli has already run out of sourdough. Talk to the locals and you'll hear fierce pride, mixed with brutal honesty about the cost of entry. One resident told us, "I've only heard good things about North Berwick. Everyone who lives here seems to love it, but you definitely pay a premium for the privilege of that postcode." Another local pointed out the reality of the town's economy, saying, "Small businesses survive here because people can afford to pay a bit more, so don't expect a bargain on your weekly shop." But if that price tag makes your eyes water, you might prefer our next up, which is essentially the Brooklyn of the North. Yes, I am serious. Stockport is on the list, and if you're still making jokes about its viaduct, you are living in the past. Stockport has pulled off what is arguably the most impressive glow-up in British urban history, transforming itself from Manchester's ugly duckling neighbor into the absolute coolest kid in the class, famously named the Sunday Times best place to live in the Northwest. The town center is now unrecognizable from the gray, desolate place it was a decade ago. It's absolutely packed with independent magazine shops, artisan bakeries, and craft beer bars that spill out onto the cobbled streets, creating a scene that rivals the Northern Quarter. The transport links are frankly insane, with trains getting you into Manchester Piccadilly in 10 minutes and direct to London Euston in 2 hours, making it a commuter's dream that actually has its own soul. It's gritty, it's industrial, but it's buzzing with a potential that feels electric, especially with the massive investment in the new transport interchange and rooftop park. Locals are all over this transformation, with a mix of pride and anxiety about rising costs. One local said, "Nowadays, I'd confidently argue it's the best satellite town in Greater Manchester, with the investment and gentrification, particularly around Underbank." Another warned, "Prices are going to shoot up. Landlords are also buying up the cheaper houses to rent out, creating a sense of urgency for anyone thinking about buying." People love the Foodie Friday market events, but warn that some outer areas like Brimington still have a way to go. Forget Brighton. If you want the seaside with a bit more edge and a faster train to London, you come to Folkestone. It's artistic, slightly chaotic, and genuinely vibrant. Folkestone has reinvented itself through sheer force of will and a massive amount of investment from the DeHaan family trust, turning what was once a faded port into a bona fide cultural hotspot. At the heart of it all is the Harbour Arm, a former ferry terminal now transformed into a mile-long boardwalk, packed with champagne bars, street food vendors, and live music venues. It pulls crowds from all over the southeast, especially on sunny weekends. And then there's High Speed 1. HS1 gets you to London St. Pancras in under an hour, which has flooded the town with so-called DFLs, down from London's, bringing their flat whites and sourdough with them. But Folkestone is very much a town of two halves. Some areas are still quite deprived, yet the energy in the town center is unmistakable. It's driven by the Triennial Art Festival, which leaves behind permanent sculptures scattered throughout the streets. Locals have mixed feelings about all this change, the familiar tension between longtime residents and newcomers. One local summed it up like this: Folkestone is living its best life right now. Property is still cheap for the southeast. Gentrification is happening, but the town still has a great community. Others are more guarded, warning: go a little further back from the seafront and the appeal disappears. It's still rough around the edges. In other words, check the specific street before you commit. The numbers: median home price £311,000, average rent £1,000 to £1,400 per month, median household income £39,000, cost of living rising fast. Now, if you want somewhere that feels like a period drama film set, this next one in Essex is all about the aesthetics. This is the kind of place you move to when you want your life to look like one of those quintessential England Instagram feeds. It's called Saffron Walden in Essex. It's affluent, very quiet, and really community-focused. It's a medieval market town that somehow managed to avoid getting ugly over the years. The timber-framed buildings, the decorative plasterwork, it all feels carefully looked after, like the town genuinely cares about how it looks. There's a market square right in the center that's been running since the 1100s. You'll find things like artisan cheese, fresh fish, local produce, and the whole town is surrounded by rolling North Essex countryside, which just adds to that postcard feel. It's especially popular with families. The schools are excellent, particularly Saffron Walden County High, and overall it just feels very safe and settled. It's the kind of place where people actually know their neighbors. Commuting is probably the biggest downside. You have to drive a couple of miles to Audley End Station, which can be a bit of a hassle. That said, most locals will tell you that's actually part of the appeal. It keeps the town quieter. The general feeling from people who live there is that it's lovely, but definitely on the sleepy side. One local described it as a really nice place, very calm, and said it's actually richer and posher than Ely, which says a lot. Another pointed out that the London connection isn't great, since you're relying on the slower trains from Audley End, so you're trading a longer commute for that picture-perfect lifestyle. In terms of the numbers, the median house price is around £454,000. Rent usually sits between £1,200 and £1,600 a month. Median household income is about £45,000, and the cost of living is definitely on the high side. Next, we're heading over the border into Wales, to a town that's basically a food festival that never seems to end. They call it the gateway to Wales, but honestly, I think of it as the gateway to putting on about 5 pounds in a single weekend. This is Abergavenny. It's earthy, friendly, and really grounded. It feels like a proper working town, not a museum you're walking through, just with a very shiny, very delicious layer on top. The town sits between 7 hills, including the Sugarloaf and the Skirrid, so it's genuinely beautiful to look at. But where it really shines is the food. Abergavenny hosts one of the biggest food festivals in the UK, and that culture doesn't disappear when the festival's over. You've got brilliant butchers, bakers, and delis all along the high street, year-round. It's a classic market town. There's a busy high street, a castle ruin that's perfect for a slow Sunday walk, and you're right on the edge of the Brecon Beacons, or Banau Bricahiniog, which is ideal for burning off everything you've just eaten. The town tends to attract a mix of active retirees and young families, people who want an outdoorsy lifestyle but don't want to feel cut off from civilization. And having a train station is a big deal in rural Wales. It connects you to scenic routes or city jobs in Cardiff and Newport. Most locals absolutely love the location, but they're pretty honest about the job situation. One person said they'd recommend living in Abergavenny itself rather than the surrounding villages, just so everything's within walking distance. They also warned that jobs are fairly scarce, so unless you can work from home, you should be ready to commute. Another resident summed up the pace of life nicely, saying it's a great place to raise kids, just don't expect much of a nightlife. As for the numbers, the median house price is around £275,000. Rent usually falls between £750 and £950 a month. Median household income is around £24,000, and overall, the cost of living is pretty affordable. Next, we're heading back to the southeast, to a town that, for reasons best known to itself, burns things for fun.
Lewes is Brighton's older, more intellectual, and slightly pyromaniac sister. It's bohemian posh. Think architects, authors, and people who make their own sourdough and compost religiously. Famous worldwide for the biggest and most intense bonfire night celebrations on the planet, Lewes is a town with a rebellious streak that dates back centuries. It has its own currency, the Lewes pound, designed to keep money local, a Norman castle that dominates the skyline, and the Harvey's brewery right in the center that makes the whole place smell like hops when the wind is right. Nestled right in the South Downs, so the views are spectacular, and the housing stock is a gorgeous mix of medieval timber, Georgian brick, and Victorian terraces. Locals are proud of the town's spirit. It's a town that wraps history around everyday life, one local said. Lewes' average full-time earnings are the highest in East Sussex, which reflects the demographic you'll be joining. Residents often joke that you need to be a millionaire to buy a pint, but they wouldn't live anywhere else. The numbers. Median home price, £373,000. Average rent range, £1,200 to £1,500 per month. Median household income, £32,000. Cost of living, very high.
Harrogate in North Yorkshire is the town that put the posh in Northern. It's elegant, safe, and slightly traditional. It's got a Sunday best feeling every day of the week. It feels very wealthy and established. Harrogate is all about grandeur, elegance, and flowers. It's centered around the Stray, 200 acres of protected green space that wraps around the town center, and the architecture screams of Victorian wealth and spa town heritage. It's a major conference town, so it feels busier and more cosmopolitan than its size suggests, with amazing restaurants and bars. The schools are excellent, the streets are clean, and the flower beds are manicured to within an inch of their lives by the council. One resident said, "Harrogate is lovely. We've talked about moving out of Harrogate for that very reason, cost. But we have family here, plus if we regretted it, houses will likely have gone up in cost." Another adds, "It seems like in Harrogate the high street is surviving and even thriving," pointing out that unlike many UK towns, the centre here is still bustling with premium shops. The numbers. Median home price, £389,000. Average rent range, £850 to £1,200 per month. Median household income, £36,700. Cost of living, high for the north, 18 plus. From inland elegance to coastal grandeur, let's head back to Wales.
If you think seaside towns are all faded glory, you haven't seen the queen of Welsh resorts, Llandudno in Conwy. It's a Victorian masterpiece that has miraculously avoided being ruined by tacky arcades and neon lights. It sits on a peninsula between two massive headlands, the Great Orme and the Little Orme, giving it a dramatic natural backdrop that few towns can match. The promenade is sweeping and dignified, lined with pastel-coloured hotels that look like a Wes Anderson movie. It used to be a retirement haven, but it's increasingly attracting younger people who want cheap property and immediate access to the mountains of Snowdonia. You can buy a massive house here for the price of a garage in Surrey. It's got a pier, a ski slope, and wild goats that famously invade the town centre when they feel like it. Locals says, Llandudno is lovely, but I agree that it's like Benidorm for Scousers and Manx at times in the summer. But another counters, it's gorgeous though. Lovely beach, lovely pier, lovely countryside. House prices might be expensive though. It's nostalgic but active. It feels grand yet accessible to everyone. The numbers. Median home price, £210,000. Average rent range, £600 to £800 per month. Median household income, £22,500. Cost of living, low. Now, let's go to a place that's world famous but feels like a village.
St. Andrews in Scotland. It's not just for Prince William and Kate, it's for anyone who wants a brainy, beachy life. St. Andrews is a bizarre and wonderful mix of ancient university town, global golf pilgrimage site, and high-end seaside resort. It's academic coastal. It feels international and cosmopolitan, yet intimate. You'll hear American accents as often as Scottish ones. The population effectively doubles during term time, giving it a youthful, international energy that perfectly balances out the American golf tourists. The town center is composed of 3 main medieval streets, packed with independent shops, pubs, and an inordinate number of bookshops. It's expensive, the most expensive coastal town in Scotland, because everyone from wealthy students to retired Texans wants a piece of it. But the safety, the history, and the sheer beauty make it hard to beat. The housing situation is a hot topic. The cost of renting is sky high due to the turnover from students, although the house prices have gone nuts over the last 2 to 3 years. I advise looking just outside the town if you want more space for your money. The numbers. Median home price, £458,000. Average rent range, £1,100 to £1,600 per month. Median household income, £30,900. Cost of living, high.
Welcome to the gateway to the Dales, a town that is aggressively happy, Skipton in North Yorkshire. It's cheerful, bustling, and community-minded. It feels safe and wholesome, like the UK used to be, or how we imagined it was in the good old days. Skipton is a market town done absolutely right, balancing tourism with a real, functioning local community. It's got a 900-year-old castle at the top of the high street, a canal running through the middle where you can take boat trips, and a market 4 days a week that sells everything from local cheese to thermal socks. It also has great schools, Ermisted's and Skipton Girls High, which makes it a massive magnet for families moving out of Leeds and Bradford. It's not as posh as Harrogate, but it's more authentic and grounded. It's voted happiest place. Why? Eating warm pork pies straight from the oven, washed down with a pint of landlord, would make anybody happy. Another resident says, it's a really nice town, but it does rain a lot. That's just Yorkshire in general to BF. The numbers. Median home price, £277,000. Average rent range, £600 to £850 per month. Median household income, £36,600. Cost of living, moderate. Now, from the hardy north, we are swinging down to the Suffolk coast for a town that feels like it's been frozen in a perfect 1950s summer.
Southwold in Suffolk. It's like a toy town for the wealthy, but my God, is it pretty. And if you can afford it, it's paradise. It's serene, curated, and slow-paced. It feels like a perpetual Sunday afternoon in 1955. Southwold is an island of prosperity on the East Anglian coast, almost entirely surrounded by water and marshes. It's famous for its colourful beach huts, its quirky pier that features homemade arcade machines, and the working lighthouse that sits right in the middle of the residential streets. It's quiet, pristine, and very, very expensive. A lot of the houses are second homes, which can make it feel a bit empty in the depth of winter, but for a permanent resident seeking peace, safety, and a very high quality of life, it's unmatched. Residents are honest about the second home issue. Southwold is a nice town, but the town is mostly retirees and tourists, with most of the housing being holiday lets. But they also admit it's a very picture postcard of England, beautiful coastal towns. If you live here, you accept that your neighbours might only be there for August, but you get the beach to yourself in November. The numbers. Median home price, £600,000 plus. Average rent range, £1,100 to £1,900 PCM. Median household income, low, retiree heavy. Cost of living, high. From the flatlands of Suffolk, we're heading north again to a town that feels like a stronghold against the modern world.
Alnwick in Northumberland. This is where castles are standard garden furniture, and the history is as rugged as the landscape. It's historic, hardy, and proud. Famous for Alnwick Castle, yes, the Harry Potter broomstick training one, and the incredible Alnwick Garden with its poison garden and massive treehouse. But beyond the tourist trail, it's a sturdy, livable market town that serves a huge rural area. It has cobbled streets, a massive secondhand bookstore in an old railway station, Barter Books, which is arguably the best in the country, and it's a short drive to some of the best, emptiest beaches in the UK. House prices here are shockingly reasonable for what you get, especially compared to the south. It feels remote from the rest of England, but that is exactly the appeal for those escaping the rat race. One local says, if you can afford it, central, a great community attitude and good schools. Another warns, buses, not the best idea I'd suggest, you need a car. The sentiment is that it's a wonderful place to live if you drive and don't mind being a bit far from a major city like Newcastle. The numbers. Median home price, £209,000. Average rent range, £650 to £850 per month. Median household income, £28,000. Cost of living, low. Now, to the town that decided to run itself and created a revolution in the process.
If you own a pair of dungarees, care about local politics, and love artisan markets, you probably already live here, in Frome, in Somerset. It's creative, community-focused, and slightly chaotic in the best way. The undisputed bohemian capital of the Southwest. It gained fame for its flat-pack democracy, where a group of independents took over the town council to run things differently, and that spirit of independence is everywhere. The streets are steep and cobbled, particularly St. Catherine's Hill, which is lined with shops selling vintage clothes, handmade jewelry, and ethical homewares. The monthly Frome Independent Market is legendary. It attracts ex-Londoners in droves, which has pushed prices up, but it still retains a gritty, creative edge that places like Bath have lost. Locals compare it to Bath's suburbs. Honestly, I think you'll find a lot more life in Frome than the other smaller places, and quite a different, more vibrant vibe. The numbers: median home price, £282,000. Average rent range, £900 to £1,200 per month. Median household income, £32,000. Next, Shrewsbury in Shropshire. This is the town that is almost completely islanded by a river loop, keeping the modern world at bay. It's historic, relaxed, and very polite. Shrewsbury is a Tudored dreamscape that feels like it's been lifted straight from a history book. It's packed with over 600 listed buildings, many of them black and white timber-framed, leaning at jaunty angles. The River Severn loops almost entirely around the town center, creating a natural moat that has preserved the medieval street layout. It has a fantastic theater, a massive park, the Quarry, where the flower show is held, and a slower pace of life that feels very good for the blood pressure. It's a bit of a trek to a major city like Birmingham or Manchester, but that isolation keeps it self-contained with great independent shops. And long-term residents said, "The good, it's a beautiful place, loads of independent shops, Britain's best-kept secret. The catch? Public transport is non-existent, making us entirely reliant on having a car." The locals love the beauty but are frustrated by the lack of infrastructure investment compared to bigger cities. The numbers: median home price, £300,000. Average rent range, £750 to £950 per month. Median household income, £30,000. Cost of living, moderate. Crossing the Irish Sea now, to a place where the views cost nothing but look like £1,000,000. If you want rugged beauty, a tight community, and a pint for under a fiver, look no further than Ballycastle in Northern Ireland. It's friendly, scenic, and unpretentious. It was voted the best place to live in Northern Ireland recently, and you can see why. It's incredibly affordable compared to the mainland UK. The schools are good, and the community is tight-knit. Ballycastle sits on the very northern tip of Antrim, acting as the gateway to the Glens and the ferry port for Rathlin Island. It's a working town with a stunning beach, a marina, and a high street that is buzzing with independent bakeries, get the Yellow Man honeycomb, and traditional pubs. It sits near the dark hedges and the Giant's Causeway, so it gets tourists. It's quiet in winter, sure, but the summers are glorious, and the Old Lammas Fair is an event you have to experience at least once. One local says, "Anywhere else is quiet to the point of madness 8 months a year. I live in one of the other council estates, and it's lovely." Another adds, "Nothing to beat the views from Mullockboy across to Eagles Rock." Locals warn that job opportunities are limited locally, so remote work or commuting is key. The numbers: median home price, £193,000. Average rent range, £600 to £800 per month. Median household income, £28,000. Cost of living, low. Heading back to England, to the edge of the Lake District, where the air is fresh and the rain is frequent. Kendal in Cumbria, it's not just about the mint cake. It's the gateway to the lakes without the tourist tax. It's rugged, active, and hardy. Known as the Old Grey Town because of its distinctive limestone buildings, but don't let the name fool you. It's vibrant and colorful. It sits just outside the Lake District National Park boundary, which is a crucial detail because it means house prices are significantly cheaper than in Windermere or Ambleside, yet you are only 10 minutes away from them. It's a proper working town with a strong industrial heritage, a great art center, the brewery, and world-class festivals like the Mountain Festival that attract adventurers from all over the globe. It rains a lot, seriously, buy a good coat, but the air is fresh and the access to nature is unparalleled. It's perfect for climbers, hikers, and people who own spaniels. One resident says, "I think it's a lovely place to live. The lakes and the Yorkshire Dales are on your doorstep. Cons, traffic through town at peak times is awful." The numbers:
Median home price, £265,000. Average rent range, £700 to £900 per month. Median household income, £30,000. Cost of living, moderate. If you prefer your food fancy and your Tudor buildings, this next one in Shropshire is your dream.
Ludlow in Shropshire is small, exquisite, and absolutely obsessed with food. It's refined, slow, and tasteful. It feels like a place to retire in style or raise a family away from the chaos of the city. It's a bit sleepy in the evenings, but the pubs are cozy and the restaurants are top tier. This is the original foodie town of the UK, racking up Michelin stars before most places knew what they were. The town centre is a perfect grid of medieval streets, dominated by a massive castle and a church that is so grand it looks like a cathedral. It's incredibly picturesque, to the point where it almost looks fake, with over 500 listed buildings. It's quiet, safe, and very, very civilized. One local says, "It's a lovely, safe, gentle place, but classism is rank in our little town. House prices, rentals are out of control." The numbers. Median home price, £320,000. Average rent range, £750 to £1,000 per month. Median household income, £30,000. Cost of living, moderate to high.
Next, not the London one with the deer park, but the better one with the waterfalls. Richmond in North Yorkshire. It's romantic, historic, and rugged. It feels like a storybook northern town, visually dramatic, built around a massive Norman castle that towers over the River Swale on a rocky promontory. The marketplace is huge, cobbled, and surrounded by elegant Georgian townhouses that hint at its prosperous past. It acts as the gateway to Swaledale, one of the wildest and most beautiful parts of the Yorkshire Dales. It has a strong military connection due to Catterick Garrison nearby. It's incredibly beautiful, very safe, and significantly cheaper than Harrogate or York. It's a hiker's paradise, with the coast-to-coast walk passing right through. A Yorkshire local says, "Richmond is beautiful and the waterfall is amazing. Obviously, the more desirable places to live are a lot more expensive. People love the scenery, but public transport can be limited if you want to get to big cities late at night." The numbers. Median home price, £277,000. Average rent range, £700 to £900 per month. Median household income, £32,000. Cost of living, moderate. Heading to the Midlands now, to a town built on hills, science, and holy water. Malvern in Worcestershire. It's where you go to get healthy, get clever, and get a view that stretches for miles. It's cultured, quiet, and intellectual. Clinging to the side of the Malvern Hills, this town offers views that stretch all the way to the Welsh mountains. It was a Victorian spa town, famous for its water cure, and it still retains that air of wellness and gentility. It's also a major hub for science and technology. Kinetic is based here, so the population is highly educated and the schools are top-notch. One resident observes, Malvern is mostly a place where upper-class families settle down to raise kids. Not saying you won't find young people, but they're not exactly the prime demographic. It's seen as a great place to settle down, but maybe a bit slow if you're 21 and single. The numbers. Median home price, £339,000. Average rent range, £850 to £1,100 per month. Median household income, £35,000. Cost of living, moderate to high. If Frome is bohemian, Totnes in Devon is operating in another dimension entirely. It's eccentric, conscious, and vibrant, the capital of New Age Britain, a town that famously has no Costa coffee because the locals ran them out of town to protect independent businesses. The high street is a steep climb lined with shops selling crystals, organic hemp clothing, vegan food, and local art. It sits on the River Dart, offering kayaking and rowing, and is close to both the moors and the sea. It's not cheap, but you are paying for a unique, alternative lifestyle that you can't find anywhere else. Locals joke that it's twinned with Narnia for a reason, and Totnes is very safe and welcoming, with loads of independent shops. Shame it's gotten so expensive to live.
The main complaint is that the popularity of the alternative lifestyle has pushed house prices up beyond the reach of many locals. The numbers: median home price £325,000, average rent range £850 to £1,100 per month, median household income £30,000, cost of living high. Back up to Scotland, to a town that thrives on drama, scenery, and salmon.
Pitlochry in Perthshire. Nestled in the Highlands, this town punches way above its weight for culture and connectivity. It's scenic, busy, and cultural. It feels like a holiday destination that you get to stay in forever. It's a tourist magnet, but don't let that put you off living there. It has a festival theatre that draws crowds from all over Scotland, a salmon ladder at the dam that is surprisingly fascinating, and 2 distilleries, Blair Athol and Edredor. It's surrounded by forests and hills, with Ben Vrackie looming over it, offering incredible hiking from your doorstep. It has a train station on the main line to Inverness and London, making it surprisingly connected for a Highland town. It's a bustling, active town that feels cozy in winter with roaring fires and vibrant in summer with visitors. It's surprisingly livable for families and active retirees alike. Locals say Pitlochry is basically full of retirees, but there's plenty of stuff to do in the surrounding area. It's completely mobbed with tourists for half the year too, so it can be a lot livelier than you might think. The numbers: median home price £226,000, average rent range £650 to £850 per month, median household income £30,000, cost of living moderate.
Next, Tenby in Pembrokeshire. It's the Welsh Riviera, and it's colorful enough to brighten even the gloomiest winter day. It's cheerful, coastal, and classic. It's a walled medieval town with 3 glorious sandy beaches and a harbor painted in pastel ice cream colors. It's visually stunning. Inside the ancient walls, the streets are narrow, pedestrianized, and packed with pubs, cafes, and shops. It's a summer hotspot, obviously, but the winter community is resilient and tight-knit. It's perfect for people who want to swim in the sea every morning and walk the Pembrokeshire coast path every weekend. In summer, it's manic, but the locals know the secret quiet spots. In winter, it's wild, windy, and cozy. What locals think? It's expensive for West Wales, but cheap compared to Cornwall for a similar lifestyle. One visitor said, "Yes, it's pretty, but it's pretty soulless to me." But residents defended passionately. The walks and scenery are beautiful too. Great place to be. Locals have a strong community that emerges once the tourists go home in September. The numbers: median home price £217,000, average rent range £650 to £800 per month, median household income £26,000, cost of living low to moderate. Top 3 now. We're heading to the West Country for a stone-cold stunner that is often overlooked for its bigger neighbor.
Bradford-on-Avon in Wiltshire. It's like Bath, but you can actually park, and it feels like a village. It's picturesque, affluent, and historic. It feels like living in a postcard, but one with good Wi-Fi and sourdough pizza. Built into the side of a steep hill with tiers of golden stone houses looking down on the River Avon and the Kennet and Avon Canal. It has a medieval tithe barn, a Saxon church that was lost for centuries, and a canal towpath that is perfect for Sunday strolls to the pub. It attracts the spillover from Bath, which is a 12-minute train ride away, so the demographic is affluent professionals and families who want the aesthetic without the city noise. It's hilly, expensive, and traffic can be a nightmare over the ancient bridge, but the lifestyle is elite. Locale warns about the bridge bottleneck. Don't let the allure of its beauty draw you in. Living in it and commuting for work or school runs or whatever, miserable due to traffic. But others say, ideally located, close enough to Bath for work and culture, but quiet enough to relax. The numbers: median home price £450,000, average rent range £1,000 to £1,400 per month, median household income £40,000, cost of living high.
Nantwich in Cheshire. This is the ultimate northern market town for those who like the finer things in life. It's polished, prosperous, and floral. It has the highest concentration of listed buildings in England outside of Chester, with Tudor timber framing everywhere you look. It's affluent, safe, and very friendly. It serves as a commuter hub for Manchester and Crewe, but it feels a world away from the grid of the city. The high street is thriving with boutiques, delis, and high-end charity shops. It's got a floral, well-kept feel to it, winning Bloom competitions regularly. It's a great place for families and professionals who want a soft landing in the Northwest.
One resident says, Nantwich is a nice place to live. Largely, the people are nice and accommodating, and if you do like dining out or a good bar scene, it's great. The numbers. Median home price, £300,000. Average rent range, £800 to £1,100 per month. Median household income, £38,000. Cost of living, moderate. And finally, the #1 town to live in Britain. It's small, it's perfect, and it's in God's own country. Helmsley in North Yorkshire. This is it. The perfect blend of rural beauty, community spirit, and modern luxury that makes absolute sense for 2026. It's idyllic, classy, and welcoming. It feels like the best version of country living, muddy boots and Land Rovers, but also champagne and fine dining. It's the only market town actually inside the North York Moors National Park. It has a castle ruin overlooking the town, a beautiful walled garden, and a market square that is the beating heart of the community. It has a heated open-air pool, a Michelin-starred restaurant, and an art center, an insane amount of amenities for a town of its size. It feels safe, secluded, yet surprisingly connected to the good things in life. It's affordable compared to the South, beautiful beyond belief, and the quality of life is simply off the charts. It attracts walkers, bikers, and foodies, keeping it lively year-round. It's the kind of place where you can walk out your front door and be on the purple moors in 5 minutes, then come back for a flat white and a browse in an independent bookshop. One travel guide enthusiast says, Helmsley is a small medieval town perched quietly on the side of the River Rye. With a small population, it offers everything needed for modern living. Locals cherish the balance of peace and activity, though they warn you need a car to get to big supermarkets or the cinema. The numbers. Median home price, £350,000. Average rent range, £800 to £1,100 per month. Median household income, £35,000. Cost of living, moderate.